Hello, in this presentation we will make a custom comparative profit and loss within QuickBooks Pro 2018, taking some of the functions we have seen in prior presentations and making a custom profit and loss with them. If you've been working along with us, we will be continuing with the Get Great Guitars problem. If not, that's okay. We're going to be customizing a profit and loss and looking at some of the functions in so doing. If you have access to the backup file, you can restore it by going to the File tab and restoring that information. We currently have the Open Windows open. To open the Open Windows, go to the View tab and Open Window List. We also have the Home page open, which can be found at the Company dropdown and Home page. We're going to be looking at a profit and loss and customizing that profit and loss using some of the features we have seen thus far. To do that, we're going to go to the Reports dropdown, we're going to go to the Company and Financial, and we're going to look at the Profit and Loss Standard. We're then going to change the date range to 01/01/21 to, well, it should say from 01/01/21, which is January 1st, 2021 to 12/31/21. And this will be the starting point of our information. It is a profit and loss, similar to an income statement, or the same thing as an income statement. We have income or revenue, those income accounts. Then we have the expenses, including cost of goods sold and other expenses, and ultimately arriving at net income. What we're going to do is we're going to customize some of this. We want to show 2 months of activities, so we're going to show January and February. And we'd like to show some percentage change or vertical type of analysis with those as well. To do that, we're going to go to the Customize Report up top, and we're going to go to the January through February. In order to do that, we're going to say keep the first date January, and I'm just going to go through 02/28/21. So we've got January 1st, 2021 to February 28th, 2021. Next, what I'd like to do is change the total column to see just the months. So I'd like to see a month-by-month comparison. We're not going to do it by going to the previous month, as we've seen in a previous report, where we had the month of the whole month of February 1st to February 28th, then chose the previous period. What we're going to do here instead is take the total and change it to the month. And we'll take a look at what that does first. If we select that, then of course we have January and February and the total. The nice thing about this type of form, rather than the previous analysis or the difference between the two, is that we have the January 1st. It's in order by what came first instead of the most recent month. And that's just a matter of preference on how we want the report to set up. And if we then we have the total rather than subtracting the two. This is a totaling report rather than a subtraction report. Then we're going to go back up to the customized reports once again. And we can't use the percentage changes here because, of course, we're not going to go to the previous period. That would give us a previous period type of calculation. That's not what we want. What we could do over here is we could do some of this vertical analysis type of calculations. We could have the percentage of income, or the percentage of the row columns. I'm going to choose percentage of income. And if we look at what happens with that calculation, we now have the January and February, and we have the percentage of income, and that's going to give us then a nice calculation for each of these items in terms of a vertical analysis. So we can see the 2467.4 as it compares to the total of 2975.4 in the same column, and that gives us the 82 times 100%. That gives us the 82.9. If we were to go down here to say this 15 and see that we're comparing the 15 divided by the total income of 2975.4, that gives us this number. If we say times 100, we get the 5%. So we're doing the vertical analysis in each of these categories. And the nice thing is that it also gives us the total category for January and February for the full time period. Same kind of vertical analysis. For example, if we took this amount here, this expense, 917 over this 19,274, well, it's 917 divided by then 19,275.4 gives us this number times 100 gives us the 4%, the 4.8%. So that will be this calculation. That's what we have so far. What we're going to do now is we're going to do some changes to the amounts here. We're going to remove the cents. So let's do that next. We're going to go up to the reports, and we're going to remove cents by going to the fonts and numbers, and we're going to remove the cents here and say OK. And so now we see the information without the pennies involved in it. Now we're going to do some of our comparisons in terms of changing the name. I'm going to make that a February comparative income statement, and we'll just take away some of this information as we have been doing, so we're not printing the date and the month and the accrual method. So we'll go back up to the customized reports. We're going to go to the header and footer tab, and this time we're going to remove the date, the time, the report basis. And then we'll change the name. Instead of just profit and loss, we're going to call it February Comparative Income Statement. I'm just going to copy and paste that so you don't have to see me misspell and that. So it's going to be February Comparative Income Statement. And that will be shown once we select OK. And that will remove these items and give us a new title. So we're going to say OK. So February Comparative Income Statement, there we have that. And we have removed this information. So this is going to be our custom report here. We're going to go ahead and save this or export it to a Excel sheet we have already created by going to the Excel drop-down up top and create a new worksheet. And we are going to put it to an existing workbook. Browse to find that workbook. Happens to be going to where we would like it. That's great. We're going to select that and either select open or just double click on it, and then we will export this information. It should then open up Excel, export this information to a new tab within Excel, and when it does that, we will then do our normal changes, including moving the Excel tab to a new location, to the end location, and we'll do some adjustments to the view screen. You can see that we have a few tabs open here now that we've done. I'm going to have to move over by selecting this item because we've got so much work we've done so far. And then we're going to grab this sheet and we're going to pull it all the way to the right. And we do some normal cosmetic work here. We're going to go to the View tab up top. We're going to go to the Windows section. We're going to unsplit the panes. And then we can rename this. I'm going to double click on that. Just going to call it Feb Comparative Income Statement. Something like that, something short that we can fit on the tab section. Then we're going to go down here to the page layout and see if everything looks okay, this little icon. And it looks like the header is there. That's great, but this information's on we have this information on a different row. Now, if the column is on a separate sheet, you may even want to go to this tab over here. We'll go to the last tab, Page Break View. If we select that, it'll give us this really small kind of window, but if I'm making this larger by going to 115 over here. And that'll show us exactly where the page breaks will be. And that's useful for us because we really don't want to print this out. If we gave this to someone and printed it and had this column on another sheet, that's kind of not acceptable. That's a little ugly. So what we're going to do is we're going to fix that. There are a couple ways we can do that. If we go back to the normal view, we could do that by going to the layout and making this orientation rather than portfolio. I'm in the page layout. We're in the page setup group. And we could change it from portfolio to landscape. That would be the traditional type of fix, and that'll put it all on one page. The problem with that is that sometimes if all of your other reports are portfolio and you print that landscape, then you have to turn the page when you go through the stapled pages, and you might got to decide which way you want the landscape thing to go, if it wants to, how you want to staple it in there. So you might also, if it's pretty close, want to keep it portfolio. So we might want to keep it portfolio like this, and then just try to adjust the columns. For example, we might just try to get rid of altogether these columns that have no data in the middle, by just highlighting the whole column and just deleting those, and see if we can keep it all landscape. This might, or we could make these pretty small, right? We could have tried that, but I'm deleting them. I've already started here, so I'm going to finish that. And it looks like if we delete all those, it'll be on a column there. So that's, you know, a couple options we can have to do that. And once we have that, it'll fit on a page. So the point is, you want to do a couple different adjustments and see what format will work best. And then we're going to go ahead and save this information, save that information, close this out. Note that if we were to print this report out from QuickBooks, I made these columns a little bit wider just so we can make sure to see this example by selecting this item and make them a bit wider. If we were to print this, we might have the same printing problem, meaning QuickBooks does not necessarily just make it print on one page. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but it's worth looking at. If we were to print it from here and go to report, and if we didn't have this check mark checked, it might be checked from previous printings, but if it's not checked, and we say go ahead and preview it, then we could have on multiple pages here. And the same type of thing, the same type of procedures that we can go through to get the printing look good. We don't want to give that to somebody that's printed like that. So what we'll do is we could change it to landscape here. We don't have as many options on eliminating rows, but we could make the rows smaller. So then we could say preview that and see what happens, and that will almost do it. And then of course we can go back, and if I didn't want to do that, if I want to bring it back to portrait the way we had it before and close this out, we could try to make these rows smaller. And that's one way we could fit it on one page. Go to customize report, and close that back out. Go to print reports and see if that brings it down to one page, which it does. If it doesn't, we could try to do other things like change the font, which we talked about before, which would be in the customize and fonts. Would change the font sizes. And if that doesn't work, of course, the last case resort is to go to customize, and then is to go to print reports, and then fit it to one page wide. Fit it to one page wide. You don't want to do that unless it's a last resort, because once you do that, it's going to change the size of the font, and it won't look exactly the same as prior reports. But at least we'll get it on one page, so that it'll be on one page, and that'll be better than having columns on another page. And so that's a couple things we can look at and work through when printing these reports.